All right, the meeting is called to order, and this is the meeting of the Long Grove Economic Development Commission. And due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I've determined that it is not prudent for the members of the Economic Development Commission or staff to convene in person for this morning's meeting. Therefore, the members of the EDC are attending this morning's meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of these limitations, the public is invited to attend and listen to the meeting through Zoom platform or by phone as indicated on the meeting agenda. To comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings, this morning's meeting is being recorded. All right. We are compliant. And I have to acknowledge that I know we're being recorded here. Where's that? So we have a fair number of things which are, I'd say, largely works in progress, but things that we do well to talk about getting prepared to go forward.
Should we, do we have a quorum? Should we take?
I counted 4.
Okay.
That should do it, shouldn't it? 4 of
Okay.
7.
Yep, that's a quorum.
Yeah. So, Greg, there's a very short agenda item for you on the top about developments. But I know there's a bit to talk about. The idea here was first you were just going to clue us in on anything that had hit recently since the last meeting, but I know there are other things that you could talk about too. So can you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me go through a number of items that when we had our last meeting, it was so early and on the tail of the previous year that there wasn't much to discuss, but we've had a great deal of activity in the last few weeks. Sad news, first of all, is that the Olive Tap closed their doors. So that's 2,400 plus square feet of retail space that, we're hoping to see get filled. They are keeping their location at Crystal Lake open, and they've opened up an additional one in Colorado. So they now have 2 in Colorado, but it's going to be sad to see them go. A number of reasons. It was where my wife made me go at least once a month to go spend some money. And then they've been around the village for quite some time. So it's sad to see somebody who's been around the village for a period of time leave. I was contacted by the developer from CBRE regarding the South 15 space. They are working with a new developer to bring a new set of plans to staff and board members to take a look at based on the comments. And I think Roger was at that meeting, and based on the comments that were received as to what the village board would find acceptable for development in that area. Bentley's, the dog or pet store in Sunset Grove has just submitted plans to expand by 4,000 square feet. Bentley's has a model where they also, almost like Petco, where they start doing grooming for animals in their other locations, and now they're going to adapt that model to Sunset Grove by expanding by 4,000 square feet. Range USA, and some of you may be aware of this, the village has been approached by a gun range. That gun range also has gun sales, ammunition sales, and other collateral or ancillary items, but they are looking to get a special use permit and a PUD and text variants to open up a location on an outlet over by Menards at Lake Cook and 53. Their real estate agreement, I guess, is pretty much worked through. They will be going to the Planning Commission Zoning Board of Appeals in March, the first week in March, to present their request. And it was initially presented to the board, and the board referred it to the PCZBA because of text and PUD amendments that had to be taken care of. So that is now going to the PCZBA. They will look at the language that's being proposed and then make a recommendation to the village board for their final decision. We would anticipate, based on the timeline that's going on right now, and this is just all kind of worked its way through within the last 48 hours. We're expecting that Range USA will, the PCZBA's referral will go to the board either the first village board meeting, which is the week immediately following the PCZBA, or the second meeting in March. And if the if the zoning board of appeals, let me do it that way. After 8 o'clock, I can say it right, but not before 8 o'clock. But if they may want to keep it for another 2 weeks. So again, the furthest to be pushed out, as we can see right now, is the first meeting in April, but we're likely to see it with one of the 2 meetings in March. Compass Realty has opened up in 250 Robert Parker Coffin Road. It's a service, obviously a service business. The B1 district has a requirement for 80% retail, 20% service. We are capped at the number of service businesses based on the existing zoning ordinance. I know there's been discussion to review that to perhaps make it more of a 75-25 or 70-30. We're still having discussions before we bring that back to the board. 405 Robert. 405.
Greg,
Yeah.
what is their address again? Compass Realty?
It's 250 Robert Parker Coffin.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The Doghouse, 405 Robert Parker Coffin, is a brand new, we just received the plans, and it's under plan review, but it's to be a restaurant, a hot dog restaurant.
Oh, that's
Neat. Yeah, there's still a number of hurdles. It's adapting that building for fire safety, and they have to do something with the roof for a hood for when they're cooking. They want a refrigerator to put outside. That's something that could be tough to get through with the historic business district. There may be some options for enclosures, but there's a lot of discussions. But the architectural renderings are done. The contractors' plans have all been done. Everything's under plan review. So that's moving forward right now. It's with our planners, and staff is working with the property owner. There will be a presentation going before the village board on Tuesday by a gentleman named Doug Olson, who is owner of the property at the northwest corner of Lake Cook Road and 53. Which abuts 91.2 acres of unincorporated Palatine. They are going to put a self-storage facility there with, and what's favorable to that is there's not a lot that can go on that space. It's right in, right out access. It sits directly across from Menards. There is another owner of property abutting to the north. And again, there's 91.2 acres to the west, a significant portion of that property being wetlands. We're going to be reaching out to the property owners at 91.2, at that 91.2 acres, and talk to them about their interest of being part of Long Grove, but we'll see where that goes. But we're looking forward to the presentation. We looked at a concept plan and then a pre-planning drawings and renderings by the company. They have a couple other storage facilities in northern Cook County. So the building's attractive. It meets the requirements of less than 35 square feet. 35 feet in height. So they're going to bring it to the board, and we'll see what happens from there. The board's choice on that would be to refer it to the planning commission to see if it could be moved forward. It's currently zoned R1, or I believe it's R1, and it would have to be rezoned. The final thing that I could bring up for over the last couple of weeks is that we're scheduling a meeting with Thornton's for a gas station mini mart at one of the outlets, potentially one of the outlets at Menards, by Menards. So I'm working with our planner right now to have those meetings and discussions and see if there's if they're interested. By all accounts, Thornton's has been looking for a location in or near Long Grove. Certainly that HR districts would serve well, not only from their ability to attract business right there off of Lake Cook and 53, but that would probably be one of the better locations for that type of business. And other than that, it's been pretty slow. So,
well, take a break. Geez. Before I forget my questions, I'm just going to grab whatever here. Something before that one.
Can I ask a couple of questions, Roger?
Yeah. Well,
so Greg, just I think one of our missions is to help the businesses in the area. On the Olive Tap closing, is there any business that would be interested in just carrying their product, like a Sunset? And I don't know if this is outside our area or not, but I know there's a lot of people, including myself, who really like shopping there. So I don't know if that's.
Yeah, the Olive Tap, I know they sell their products on in various retailers. I don't know if Sunset's one of them. It was just so convenient for Joanne to send me over to the one down the street by us. So I can't speak to if they do, but I know they are in food stores, retail stores.
I'll mention it when I go into Sunset next time. I'll just ask the manager.
Yeah. And it's I guess it was a family business decision on the move. It had less to do with Long Grove and the location as other things. So,
right. Hey, two is just curious. How did the gun range get to us, and how did the hot dog place get to us? Are they affiliated to people in Long Grove? Was it through the real estate people or their residents of Long Grove? Just curiosity, some data for us.
Yeah, the doghouse was a relationship between the landlord and the business, Terry Upton, and so that's how that took place. The gun range had was looking for another Illinois location. They have a business in Shorewood. They have a business in Naperville. They have one in Maryville. They were looking for something up because they're south, to look for something up north. It was quite honestly, they had been in conversations with Menards well over a year before they even approached the village. We had no knowledge of it. And then I guess they closed whatever deal they had to for the real estate portion, and then came to us, which I found a little bit odd, because you think you would be sure that you're going to have a business,
Right.
Than you would to turn around and secure the real estate.
Right.
So it was kind of odd.
Particularly in light of what you were saying, Greg, don't they need a zoning modification?
Yes, they need a modification to the PUD for down there by Menards. They need a modification they need a text amendment to the zoning code, because that business is not currently permitted business in the village, and need a special use permit as well. So,
so that's another reason they should have come to.
It was just an odd way. They, like I said, you normally see a business get a blessing from the government, from the jurisdiction, before they would turn around and close on real estate. But unless the real estate agreement had a contingency, but yeah, it's been my understanding it was well over a year that they'd been in discussions or securing the deal with Menards before they approached us.
I know from being at the village board meeting, or at least watching, that there was a mixed reaction to the idea of having a gun range located in Long Grove. And that doesn't surprise me. But my question is anybody prior to the time this gets to the village board thinking about vetting this in terms of the economic impact of it? What kind of taxes it would generate, or what kind of impact taking that property from being undeveloped to being developed would make in terms of real estate taxes, just generally.
Yeah, they're making that presentation to the zoning board of appeals. The last understanding I had was a potential 200,000 plus in annual revenue to the village. And that they're basing that on sales because certainly there is no property tax. Have those numbers been qualified? No, they haven't, because they were working off of sales models that they thought would be comparable to their other business for here in Long Grove. That's going to take a little further vetting on those numbers to get a firm sense of if that number is high or low.
Maybe suggesting to them that focusing on the impact of taking unused land in effect, then it has a very low tax value, and making it more taxable. It might make a great impact if that's part of the special zoning, the not POD.
Yeah, the PUD amendment, the text amendment, those, yeah, the special use permit.
But we, I think, could spend a little more time talking about the fact that it's not just a matter of getting some sales tax, it's also a matter of taxing some properties. They're doing nothing for the village in terms of paying the high school taxes that we all pay, or paying the Lake County taxes that we all pay, and putting a little bit more on the books that would, in a greater sense, actually reduce our taxes. So that's a, maybe it's a selling point for them. Maybe it's a consideration that we should make.
Well, that's in part why there's interest in that storage facility right there across the street. It's because it's vacant. There's one old house sitting there. It's vacant property that has no curb appeal, if you will. You look at the hard work that Menards did on the east side of the street and how attractive that is, and then you look to the left, and it's not even what you would consider a forest preserve or something attractive on along those lines because of it being occupied. So yeah, it's what we're hoping is between the Thorntons and whatever development comes over there, that it gives a sense of revitalization and investment into that area. And then to your point, Roger, we just hope that other units of government don't see a bigger pool of money. It's just another reason to spend. So that there is a tax break or a tax reduction realized. So.
Okay, anybody else? I'm sorry.
One thought, I'm going to jump back to Irwin's Olive Tap. Is it make any sense for EDC member to reach out and thank Olive Tap for being part of the community, and maybe offboard them a little bit and kind of get their take on what it was like having business in Long Grove, and maybe encouraging them to still selling their products locally?
Yeah, I don't think it hurts. They've been gone now for like 3 weeks. So I don't know who is still around. I went in there twice during the last week they were open to talk to the woman behind the counter and one of the owners. So I wanted to make sure that the village was represented, when they were leaving, and to offer our best wishes. But
So,
as far, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Greg, and a question about something you mentioned at our last meeting, which was Joni's leaving her place and Mike Oken taking over I don't know, is he buying the business or?
It's already done, Pam. The business is transferred. They've been issued a new liquor license that the village board recently approved. The business is over to a new company, which Mike Oken's part of. My understanding is Joni's staying just a little bit longer. She stayed at the beginning in January, and I think she's probably just got a week or two left to transition the business, the staff, recipes, things like that. So that's already done. Their business is open and it's operating.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So that's good. There's not going to
Moving
be a
down the
gap
agenda, the
there.
next,
Right. It's not going to be empty there. That's correct.
Great.
we were going to talk about LinkedIn, and there's been some development on the village staff side now, I understand. And
Yeah. I'm going to ask Natalie I asked Natalie to run with this project. She's done a great job. She's worked with Mike Elliott and they've had ongoing communication. And so our hope is that by the time we end this meeting today, that Natalie can go ahead and flip the switch and begin our efforts with the EDC and LinkedIn. I think we're ready to go for the most part. Am I right, Natalie?
Yes, there's still going to be some building the road as we're moving, but LinkedIn can be live today.
So if you're okay with it, Roger, I would just turn it over to Natalie and Mike in case Mike wants to jump in.
All right, I am going to share my screen because PowerPoint was the easiest way for me to grasp onto this and really run. And I think I'm hopefully live with just my PowerPoint.
There you go.
All right. All right, so LinkedIn, it's been talked about apparently long before I've got to the village, but now we're gonna move forward with it. LinkedIn does a thing where it kind of auto generates as soon as people mention us. So there's already a very generic, pretty wrong, auto generated Village of Long Grove page. It's pretty easy for me to just go in there, claim it, update it with a better header, a better cover photo, put in a nice mission statement, some general information about the village. The most important part with LinkedIn is that we get buy-in from all the commissioners, staff members, board, and people who interact with Long Grove, because the more people are interacting with it, the kind of better it generates. It shouldn't be too hard to generate content for it, since we can parcel a lot of our newsletter content, since the bridge comes out 6 times a year and we have like 24 e-newsletters, so we can recycle a lot of that content and retrofit it for LinkedIn. And then I also want to have the commissioners kind of drive the train and help create some original content that's very Long Grove specific. Original content is what performs best on our other social media channels, and I think it really allows us a chance to highlight Long Grove.
And how, Natalie, how would we feed in that content? How do we?
Yes, so just for ease of access, I'm going to run all the content through me to edit it and to go. I do have a tracker document to share in a few slides that I will go over with everyone. But I think the goal for LinkedIn and what I've kind of gathered from past conversations and just getting the landscape, like to build LinkedIn into like a database of knowledge, perspective, a lot of community highlights. Long Grove is very unique compared to a lot of communities just around Northern Cook and Lake County. And I think highlighting that could really stir some good publicity. To build this and to hopefully comply with open meetings, I want to break the year down into 4 3-month blocks of like winter months into spring, January, March, spring, summer, then winter. And with the hope that each EDC commissioner can kind of like claim 2 months and help drive content. So if you're a commissioner who's just really involved with the Christmas planning or holiday planning, latch on to November, December, help feed content that we can just post, kind of generate some stuff with. Or if you really love July and August and want to promote summer and school, kind of build into that as a way to make it a little more digestible for everyone. And then the goal is to have the commissioners be the conductors. As much as I would love to spend all of my time creating content. I don't think that Greg would be too happy with that. There are very few municipalities out there that have very productive LinkedIns. I know Mike Elliott and I talked about Schaumburg being a really good example of a very robust, interactive LinkedIn, but there are a lot of municipalities out there who start them and then never pick them up again. So that's just my biggest concern with it. And then we also want to think about the audiences that we're going to reach, because we want to help retain our current businesses. We want to get the potential businesses. We want residents to interact. Maybe potential residents will see stuff they like. We want to bring in new people, and we also want to keep engaging with staff and commissioners. So that's just some concerns and a little background with it. And then to do all of this, I've created a tracker/planner document, and I can share this with all the commissioners. I can share it with Greg, and we can all work. New laptop. We can all work very collaboratively on it, and it kind of lays out everything very easily. So, like, just a rough idea of like if we did like a welcome to the village post or introduction, we can see where it is, see who's working on it. We can link content. We can put in notes. And all of that, because I'm sure we can probably utilize some Google Drive with that, and that can open in Excel and I believe web browsers, so access shouldn't be a huge issue. But it'll just kind of be seeing what works best and how everyone wants to get in content and kind of help plan. I'm very flexible with that. And then growth is going to take a little time. As I've been working on tracking the village's social media since I've started, and it takes some time to get the engagement and growth, but we just have to stay pretty consistent with how we're interacting with it and how we're promoting the village. And then kind of long term, I want to find out what's the most equitable way to promote the current businesses while welcoming in new businesses. Because my fear is I would love to do big welcome to the village posts for all the businesses who are coming, but I also don't want established businesses to be like, oh, well, we're here, we want attention to. So figuring out that solution is something I hope to work farther with the board with.
What we see happening here, and what the first thing I wanted to do was give this the attention it deserved, and that's why we did it. We assigned this to staff versus the communications firm. Because the startup and the attention is what's going to be necessary to nurture and grow LinkedIn. Like in my experience with, and I'm sure for many of you, you share the same experience. My experience with any social media platform is if the content isn't consistent and the content isn't relevant, I'm never going back to the page. And it's hard to have somebody leave a page and bring them back. It's like a customer who's had a bad experience. It's without taking that to an extreme. Natalie will be able to, this is Natalie's baby. She's going to be able to make sure that everything is shaped and crafted to go onto the LinkedIn site and make sure it's consistent and relevant. But Natalie's ability to gather all the content is going to be difficult just because of other functions she has, plus seeing things out in the field that she doesn't necessarily always see. There are certainly things that we can bring in from staff when we know that a business is in the works, or, hey, something along the lines of Long Grove getting ready to welcome a new hot dog restaurant. I mean, just things like that. Those are opportunities that or content that staff can share and have Natalie work and get up to that site. But her request for having 2 commissioners who would be interested during a certain quarter of the year to toss some content to her because of what they see out in the community or what they're hearing out in the community or something they may read or come across in their given industries. I think that could be extremely valuable and keep the momentum going. So. but we're ready. We're ready. We're ready to move forward with this and communicate out there also via our newsletter and both electronic and print that, hey, our Economic Development Commission, Long Grove, is on LinkedIn. Visit this, LinkedIn site. So
if I heard right, these posts are more persuasive if they're not from some anonymous editor for the LinkedIn site, but for some, like if I posted and I said, hey, folks, there's new management at Joni's, da, 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 that would be more effective than having the village just anonymously say, knew something at Joni's. Is that part of this? Like, is these?
I think and Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong, and Mike jump in too, but I think what we're talking about is for you to give the content to Natalie. Natalie gets it out there, and then all of a sudden you, Jenny, myself, Erwin, Pam,
Got it.
Jay, we say like, and then because we like something, anybody who's connected up to us in LinkedIn automatically says, okay, hey, Roger likes this, what's this? And then hopefully it drives them to our LinkedIn site.
Yes.
That's exactly right. First of all, Natalie, thank you. Natalie and I had a conversation in January where she went over this outline, and it's awesome work. One thing I do want to emphasize is this is going to be the Village of Long Grove LinkedIn page, right? It's not. Yes. It's not the EDC LinkedIn page. It's not the downtown LinkedIn page. It's not it's the village. So that's the identity of the LinkedIn page. And Greg's absolutely right. It's incumbent on us to feed content to Natalie so she doesn't have to create it, right? She'll put it in a format that everyone agrees is appropriate, post it on the LinkedIn page. What we have to do, though, every one of us has to follow the village LinkedIn page from our own LinkedIn profile. So just go to Village of Long Grove LinkedIn page and follow it. Click on follow. You'll be following it. That should get any posts into your feed. If they don't, go there once a week, and if a new post is on the village's page, like it and comment on it. The more we do that, as Greg mentioned, then that's going to get it into our feed. Now, if you like or comment something on LinkedIn, it doesn't get visibility into all of your LinkedIn connection. I think I have like 1,500 LinkedIn connections, but the more you like and comment, the more it filters out into your own LinkedIn connection network. And that's how you start getting traction. If you are connected, I know we talk a lot about working with real estate developers. If you have a LinkedIn connection with a real estate developer, you can send a LinkedIn, they call them in-mails, or even a message if you're connected with a real estate developer to say, hey, did you see the latest post on the village's LinkedIn page, right? As long as you're a first degree connection with anyone in your network, you can message them and direct them to the village's LinkedIn page. So it'll be up to us to do that pretty easy legwork of drawing attention to the LinkedIn page. The other nice thing is once you get someone on the Village of Long Grove LinkedIn page, right in the header, there is a button that says view website. So that could drive traffic to the village website, which is also a benefit. But it's going to be on us to really promote this in our own LinkedIn personal pages that, hey, LinkedIn has a LinkedIn page now, go check it out. Like and comment on every single post that comes up because that's what generates the traffic. Natalie's done a great job. Really appreciate the hard work. Thanks for everything you've done so far. But we don't want to, as she mentioned, have this go up and then there's no content, right? So it's up to us to draft and submit content. There's a lot out there we can already use, but let's not leave it 100% on Natalie to figure out what that is. So let's all make a commitment, please, to feed her some of that content so that this can be a robust social network for business professionals, which is our target audience for communicating out to the community to try and get new business to Long Grove.
Would this be a platform to post our little "How'd you do it" clips? Or is that not the right?
You know, it's appropriate. I think they're too long. We did talk about that. If you wanted to make that a LinkedIn post, you know, you could do the first 30 seconds of it and then say to see more.
Well, we did make little 30-second or 20 to 30-second clips of most of them. I think there's just one we haven't edited.
Okay.
So
yeah, I think those are appropriate. And then again, we have to make sure we're doing that equitably, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's a perfect place. Speaking of that, video is good content to post on social media because algorithms will find that, right? The key with LinkedIn is the content has to constantly be updated. So Natalie, I don't know if we've come up with a posting cadence. Is the plan to post once a week initially, once every other week, twice a week? Do you have an idea on how frequently we're going to be posting on LinkedIn?
I think initially 2 or 3 times a week. It's gonna take maybe like a month to kind of figure that out and see. I mean, I'm hoping LinkedIn does like Facebook when it's like this day, if you publish at like 12 o'clock on a Friday, you get the most traffic. So kind of see how we can drive it.
Perfect. Yep. And I think we have enough content in the backlog, so to speak, even if we repurpose, you know, my initial thought was we can repurpose a lot of what goes out in the bridge, right? And there is absolutely nothing wrong with having someone get an emailed copy of the bridge newsletter, and then the very next day, one of those articles shows up in their LinkedIn feed, right? So they may have missed the email, but now they see it in their LinkedIn feed. And people who don't get the bridge newsletter are seeing it in their LinkedIn feed. So that's an easy way. We're already generating the content. Let's repurpose it and put it in a different channel. You know, talking about and the Village of Long Grove can certainly like a lot of what Lake County Partners is doing on their LinkedIn page, right? So they are doing some work on their LinkedIn and through email similarly, right? Where they'll send an email out, but then on LinkedIn they talk about a new business that is coming to Lake County. I love what Lake County Partners did with their year-end review in January, and that's something I think the EDC can think about. You know, for next January. Everything that gets accomplished in 2022. So if we are fortunate enough to have all these new businesses open in Long Grove, that is a great thing, to post on LinkedIn, and then next January, have that, hey, here's what happened in the Village of Long Grove in 2022. The reason I bring it up now in February is because let's not in December have a conversation about, oh, let's look back and see everything that happened in the village. I think we should start accumulating a digital repository of content that we want to use for a year in review. And LinkedIn could be a good place to kind of keep track of that. If we're posting it throughout the year, we can also keep track of what we've posted and then make a nice summary at the end of the year. So the beautiful thing about this is that it's going to centralize all of our content, and it's going to give us a pretty good vehicle to get it out to the business community, and it's going to help us organize and be consistent with how we're communicating out to that particular audience.
You know, we were
Yeah,
talking.
that sounds good. Yeah, I was thinking too, as you were saying that, Mike, that you know, Amy Gayton gave us a nice wrap up, you know, at the last meeting about how the downtown did, you know, over the holidays, and you know, the success that they had. So that's something we could, you know, include in that kind of content.
A couple of things I want to, and I share this with Natalie just mostly because she's newer here, but you know, it's we've got multiple business districts within town. We want to make sure we wrap our arms around all of them, from 60 to Lake Cook Road, from the east side of town to the west side of town, because they all share an important role in our local economy. The other thing is, I'm sitting here listening, and that list of items I ran down at the opening of the meeting of activity that we're having, to turn around and shape that into a message, because when we talked about development on Lake Cook and 53, and if we see the storage place go and then a potential gas station, just the buzz that's created of all the activity, when we're putting that same buzz out on social media, I think the more people that are able to see that, get excited, or at least, if not excited, curious. And curious is a good thing, because curious means come on into town, take a look. There's something going on there. What is going on? And what I would recommend, and I defer to Mike's expertise on this and Natalie's work in this area as well, is I would propose that we do what we consider a soft launch, to kind of get a feel for how the content's going to look, how it's going to lay out, how it's going to come in. And then shortly after that, when we have that comfort level, do a hard launch. And at that hard launch, that's when we would do the media advisories out there, notifying the public through our media outlets and our communication outlets. Hey, we're live on LinkedIn. We can do that with our soft launch, but I mean, really put it out there to the Lake County partners of the world and the business organizations throughout the unions, the trade unions, who also have social media LinkedIn pages. I mean, to put that out there for developers and things of that nature, I think we would do a soft launch and then a hard launch. So.
Just to build on that excitement of the Menards and potentially the South 15, we do have, and as Mike said, video is key. We have some great drone footage of those areas that I don't know if that would help, but I know Denise has it, and but we have some really nice overhead footage of those areas that kind of shows the traffic and the spots. So.
And that's a perfect thing to use to say, look what's available in Long Grove. Open your business here.
So
looking to develop commercial property. Here's a piece of property that's available, and put a contact, the appropriate contact person there, right? So that's absolutely a fantastic idea, because we're promoting available properties that we have already out in the public, right? It's on our website. Let's promote those properties on LinkedIn.
How do we turn around also, Jenny? And you know what I like about Stevenson High School? Those kids got parents.
Yeah, well, that's what we need to get permission from those kids to post. I would love to be able to post some of their projects that they worked on with the local businesses, but I need to connect with Vic and get something out to them. But
yeah, and then the parents of these kids through those marketing classes that that came in. Hey, mom or dad, look at this. If a kid is on LinkedIn, which we know that some of these smarter, more aggressive kids are, because they're laying the groundwork for their futures, their parents are going to be on their connected to their LinkedIn site too. And I think that's just a backdoor way for us to get more attention on the LinkedIn page. That's so
right. And how great for those students who did a phenomenal job on those programs to be able to say to colleges, hey, look at my LinkedIn page. I prepared this marketing, for this business. I mean, some of them are top notch. So, I mean, they all did a great job. But I would be proud to post them as a student. So, but we just need to make sure that we get permission to do that. So
just an opportunity. That's what I was thinking.
If you reach out to Stevenson, position it as, we would like to promote our partnership with Stevenson High School on our LinkedIn page and website. Can we get permission to post the content? And it doesn't even have to be all the content, but we can certainly promote that Long Grove partnered with Stevenson High School to give students an opportunity to work on a marketing project for a live business, right? maybe posting the decks that they came up with isn't appropriate, but certainly promoting the partnership is. So if they're hesitant to put high school kids' work out online, I get that. There's no reason, however, that we can't promote that and highlight the students. Again, if we get permission from the school and from the families to say, hey, student A did a project with Buffalo Creek Brewery. So promoting the partnership is absolutely appropriate. And it shows community involvement too, right?
Right, that's true.
Well, I'd like to go back, and Greg sort of mentioned this. Let's crawl first before we run. And let's see how it works out. Maybe we put this on the agenda for the next 2 or 3 months. I don't know if there's any metrics, anything we could review, but let's start it. It's great. Great job. Mike, Natalie, everyone.
Yeah, great job, Natalie. Greg.
Who did the
And Mike.
video of the bridge reopening a couple of weeks ago? Do you know, Greg, who took the video?
I can get that. I can get that information. I
I'm
know
just
Mary,
thinking in terms of creating a short video. If somebody could get out there during this cocoa crawl this weekend and just get a short video of some area where there are a lot of people lined up for cocoa. It's a way of saying, hey, we're still open here for business. This is right now. This is today. Maybe the dead of winter, but people still, that kind of opportunity. I'd hate to see that one go away. So if we can get at least the raw footage for that, there's a possibility.
yeah, Mary Precop was driving that. So that bridge opening holiday thing. So I will check with Mary on that as well.
Okay.
And so here's a perfect opportunity, right? If we soft launch it today, there's no reason one of the first posts shouldn't be tomorrow. Hey, Long Grove's having a cocoa crawl. Come check it out, right? If you're a business owner, how cool would it be to have a location here and benefit from this foot traffic kind of thing? Then on Monday, we post, hey, we had a fantastic cocoa crawl over the weekend. How'd you like to be a part of it next year? Open your location in Long Grove. And Natalie, I can help you with that content. So I'll raise my hand to be a content provider here initially. If anyone wants to jump on board, we'd be happy to have the extra help. And so Natalie, just let me know when you want to have a separate conversation offline. I can help you with some content ideas right away. If you don't, I'm sure you have a ton of them that you're ready to put up on the soft launch, so to speak, but be happy to collaborate with you and provide some ideas for content. So, just reach out and we'll get a time on the books to discuss that, if that's okay.
The other thing, this LinkedIn page, when I first came on board, I knew this was being discussed, and we're finally there. It also shows a collaboration or a desired collaboration between local governments and business. And that's one of the things that when a new business opens up, they want to know that, yes, granted, there's going to be zoning requirements and code requirements, but they want to know that they're going into a community that's business friendly. And I think this adds a little credibility to local government's interest in bringing in businesses to Long Grove and retaining those businesses as well.
Okay, this is just the devil's advocate and the having my hand slapped. How are we going to be vetting this with the board to make sure they're copacetic with the content going out?
My opinion on this, Jenny, is this is a staff issue. I think that if we had to turn around and bring back every piece of content for board approval, this thing would take too long. Things are too fluid. Getting everybody on the same page in reference to content. I would see this as staff moving this forward. And if staff gets their hands slapped, then we know not to do that content again. I mean, that's just, I think to mire it down through a legislative process could be daunting, and it could compromise the effectiveness of the LinkedIn tool. So I think we, between myself, Natalie, and Denise, I think we take that content and move it forward. We make sure that we're not showing bias. We make sure that the message is consistent. And I think that's the best approach, in my opinion.
I just might suggest that the initial, before we go live, we run it by the board member who's on the communications side of it, just to make sure.
Oh, I'll take care of that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
No. Okay. I get it. Yeah. No, I'll take care of that.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. I just,
I
I've
get
been
it.
down this road before and
Yeah, Jennifer, you read my mind. That was going to be my next question. Like, are we cool with this? So thanks, Greg, for handling that. The other question I have, just because I don't know, is because this is a, and I'm using air quotes, government social media, related to a village. Is there anything we have to be aware of that we're not violating any? Obviously, we're not violating any Open Meetings Act, but is there anything we have to be aware of as we post this stuff? I just think it's a way to communicate, right?
Yeah, it's no different than what we do with Facebook. It's no different than what we do with Nextdoor. However, we have to realize that if some kind of comment comes from the outside to our LinkedIn page, or it's added on to somebody else and they tap into it, it's a government website. It's a public website, and there are commitments to the Second Amendment. There's certainly restrictions on content that we can and cannot take down. So those are the things we'll have to be cautious about, but that's also what we're cautious about when we deal with Facebook and Nextdoor as well.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you.
well, this is very exciting. I feel like we've checked something off our list, but really Natalie and Mike, thank you so much for.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great. Thank you very much.
So
I think
Natalie, if you could via email, let us know when it does go live, because then I would like everyone on the EDC to commit to immediately following Long Grove, liking the post, commenting on the post in a positive way. Hey, check this out. Because when you comment, that's what feeds into your LinkedIn network. They're going to see your comment first, then that it will be the post from the village. So positive promoting. I think this could get traction pretty quickly.
Yes, and I think I'm connected with most of the EDC members now. So I think when it's created, I can send everyone like invites to like and follow.
Oh, that's
Excellent.
great. Thank you, Natalie.
So and this will take us into another piece, but just so I'm clear, we're going to turn around and soft launch today, following my discussion with the chair of the communications committee, to kind of update her that we're ready to launch. And then once we launch, Natalie, you'll get a hold of Mike and the commissioners and say, okay, we're ready. So let's, if it's okay, and Natalie, tell me if I have a tendency to have high expectations and have it happen yesterday, but let's say we'll be able to launch no later than close of business today. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Look for it.
We talked about a moment ago, Roger, about, somebody said about the drone coverage over, maybe it was Jenny who said it about the drone coverage.
Right.
So we could see what space is available. That takes us in the lowest right now, if that's okay, because I think we should be posting things about space availability on LinkedIn too, to allow potential businesses and developers to know, hey, look, we've got 4,000 square feet over here. I asked Natalie also to take ownership of the lowest site and the updating of our available real estate and properties in town. So if you guys are okay with it, this is a segue for Natalie to kind of talk where we're at with that.
That would be excellent.
So Lois is a very handy tool. It's one of the only that I found free GIS mapping tools. The biggest problem is it doesn't auto search for open real estate listings. They did promote like a free software to promote it, but I'm having trouble getting access to it. So Lois hasn't been updated in a few months. And that's kind of something that I think we all need to keep an eye on, of open spaces, rentable spaces, spaces that are coming available, so we can keep them uploaded into Lois.
If you're out on the street and you see an open site that isn't, and most of you probably looked at Lois to see what's there, but if you haven't, and you could give us the location of that site, we could turn around, find out who the realtor is, and get the information and get it up on the website. Our difficulty is with the limited government model we have. For the most part, I'm the only, other than our village engineer and our planners, but I'm the only one that goes out on the street. So, and that's usually because the staff in the office wants me to get out of the building. So, but yeah, so any additional support we can get with that. And I think if we could share that with the Jay and Amina, there's some opportunity for us to even make it more robust and more up to date with the information. The other thing that we may find of value, Natalie, I was thinking about it overnight, was reaching out to our local realtors and asking them, what do you have available in town from a commercial standpoint that we would be happy to post for you, and get it that way as well. Because if it's another outlet for them to either close or open get interest in a sale, I think they'd be eager to share that information. So,
yeah. So when we were doing the, and this is also, I think, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but when we did all of the research on other EDC sites, they all had like photos or video of the open properties. And I know that we don't have that on ours. And that was one of the things we talked about building, just on the website, having photos. And I was going to offer, once we kind of started working on this, if you wanted somebody to go around and take photographs of things, I'd be happy to help generate photos or just so we could get those on the site.
Sounds great. Hopefully not as much legwork needed. Hopefully we can get the realty offices to provide, or even landlords maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, if Jay was here, I would ask him about, the realtor connection with Sunset, but we could do that, of course.
and we certainly, to help with this too, I don't think there's any conflict for us talking to Trustee O'Reilly and Trustee O'Connor about avenues that they think we might be able to pursue in order to acquire even, more information. I think it's an overall benefit to everybody in the community. So I don't think there's a conflict there. So you and I could do that, Natalie.
There's a document that Eric Russell developed that was a listing of all the openings within the village that was pretty comprehensive, but that was 2 years ago. Is that part of what you looked at to get an idea of what's there? Or is that just ancient history at this point?
What data? You got the data from Denise, didn't you, Natalie? Is that where it came from?
I just got the login information this week for Lois to take a look into it.
And I know Denise was working on that sometime before I came on board. Her and I think Ann Kritzmeyer and maybe Jenny. I don't know, Jade. I don't want to speak for you, but I think there was a combined effort. It just got difficult to manage with staffing changes, contacts. But I think we're in a better position now with Natalie on board to gain better control of it. But again, it's about, just like we were talking moments ago about LinkedIn, about the consistency of the content and the reliability of that content. It's going to be the same with Lois. So we've got to just make sure we've got good data going into that tool.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, we did. Yeah. I know Bobby worked on it. I know Eric worked on it. I know Denise worked on it. So there is a good, at least a starting framework to get going.
All right. Natalie, anything else you want to jump in with here?
I think I'm good. I've just
Alright.
jumped into Lois. I did embed it on one of the EDC pages, so it's like right there when you like go to available properties on the website. The Lois map is right below all of the other information. So I'm kind of trying to play around with the website a little bit to see if it gets a little more like web traffic.
Good deal. On the agenda next is the art festival that we talked about back and forth. And the idea was if we can get one next year. And has there been any discussion with the HLGDBA about this?
Yep. We this past week, Amy Ambler came back into town and had a meeting with leadership at the HDLGBA. She has reached out to me for some additional information on costs, again, for security and public works assistance, barricades, signage, things like that. She's still trying to position for a summer art fair. The HDLGBA is more inclined to do a end of the season, October time period for an art fair. She's comfortable that they can do it at either time, but thinks that there's more traction in the summer than there would be late fall. Her concern about late fall, though she says it, she's confident it would be a good show, is that you get into October, and when you have the same artists visiting multiple shows, the excitement wears down, and people have seen it and bought it already, or seen it and decided not to buy it already from the same vendor. She thinks that we'll get more activity the closer we are to the beginning of the season versus the latter part of the season. So nothing's been decided yet, other than my understanding is that the next year art fair is more than likely a go. But we're still working that. Amy and I, again, we had multiple conversations last week, and I connected her with our resources to help move that along. So.
Hey, Greg, that's interesting because I think it was on last month's call that, or maybe it was in a different conversation that I had with someone, but I was under the impression that the Downtown Association was pushing to be one of the first art fairs of the season.
Yeah, that's what Amy
So,
said.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. They're leaning more towards the fall now, but yeah, I was excited to hear that they wanted to go first for the reasons you just mentioned. Interesting, but
Yeah,
thanks for your work on this, because that's going to be huge for Long Grove, having one of those festivals in town.
Just to piggyback off of that, on the 15th, the HDLGBA will be installing their new slate of officers. At that meeting, Ryan Messner will be serving as president again. He was previously this last term treasurer. My understanding is he'll be serving as president again, but that installation again is on the 15th. So I just thought I'd give the EDC a heads up on that.
Cool.
So interestingly enough, I was having this brain flash about 3 weeks ago. I was going for a walk and I was like, Long Grove used to have an art show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was talking to my neighbor. She was actually really instrumental in getting that up and running. And they actually worked with both the Killdeer art teacher and the Stevenson art program. And those kids would come in and help, and they would like sit in the, like if an artist wanted to go to the bathroom, the students would sit and man their stand. So I mean, it's probably a different program, but I was just like, we used to do this and it used to be really popular. So I'm very happy that it's coming full circle.
Right, right.
I don't know who to talk to about this, but it would be nice to have a summer weekend that doesn't have carnival rides down by the fire station.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's not if I've been to Amy shows, and I think some of you may have been to Amy shows too, and that's not something that's typically there. There is, maybe food and beverages that
Right.
that accompany that, but nothing of a carnival atmosphere or a county fair type atmosphere with Amy shows. I think that's because it's a different clientele shopping at those fairs. It tends to be less with kids than it does with younger, than just adults. So.
So how do we get that word to the HLGDBA?
I talk to them almost on a weekly basis. I'll share with them that insight, Roger.
Would it help if some members of the board, some trustees also had the same conversation, assuming they're willing to do so?
Well, Trustee O'Reilly is the liaison to the HTLGBA, and I just dropped her an email to talk about the launch of LinkedIn and Lois. So that's something else I can talk to her about.
Sounds good. So much for the focused agenda. And we're doing well. It's 8 o'clock. The email that I circulated to everybody about what I heard at the last meeting, I tried to be careful and include only the elements of possible projects for the EDC that was created by Greg. Good job, and very wide reaching. And the criteria that President Bill suggested are, again, verbatim. They're right from the ordinance that created the commission. I don't know how to go about this in terms of it being effective. I would think that even a little bit of discussion here might bleed its way back to the village board before the next meeting next week. But certainly it would be, I think, more effective to have a little input from us in terms of how we feel about these things before the village sets up its meeting, whenever it is. There was some feeling that I was trying to be critical because the village board, are punching these things back. Well, if you look at the village board meetings, the kind of things that literally vacuum up their time, it's amazing that they got 5 minutes to talk about when can we do this. They're serious about it. So that's good. And I think it would be helpful. But any reactions that anybody has from what they saw on the list or on the criteria or whatever you want to call it?
I thought, obviously it's very comprehensive. I think we should prioritize what we think we could do and not take on too much. 1, 2, and 3. What are the areas that we could take on? For instance, it was, there was something in here about conduct 2 business visit sites per month. It's not going to happen. We just don't have enough people to do that.
What about calls though? What about reaching out?
I really have mixed feelings. I mean, I got to tell you, I made a lot of calls 2 years ago during the pandemic, and we also reached out for our little webinars about PPP money, government assistance. I don't think we've had more than a dozen people attend that with all the PR we did. So I'm not sure how it's going to help or what our questions are. I'm ambivalent at this point on that. So I'll go back to what I said originally. Let's just pick 2 or 3 of these boxes that are critical, and let's try to address it this year. Because we always get overwhelmed with our tactics and our to-do lists. So,
well, with 6 of us to vote, and with maybe 25 potential goals here, any kind of simple ranking that we do is just going to probably end up with a lot of pluralities, a lot of small pluralities. 2 people say this and 2 people say that, but there's a tie for a lot of items that had 2 votes. Anybody have any ideas about how we might do that more effectively?
Well, here, let me just put my 2 cents in. I'm negative on going out to visit everyone or the businesses, but why don't we discuss having a breakfast? Maybe we do that twice a year and invite everyone in and making calls there to spend an hour with the businesses here, and that maybe real estate agents, maybe developers, and talk about lawn growth. So that gets a lot of the areas. That's PR also.
I like that idea, Erwin. I guess, we have to think about like the macro goal of how do we communicate with the existing businesses. And I think it's more effective to do it as a kind of a group activity, rather than, parcel out calls for everybody. I agree. I don't think that works as well as something like a breakfast, or not that we can't bring in a speaker or do, if we think of something that might be especially helpful, we can do that. But I think in a more organized fashion is good.
Anybody
I
else?
also like the idea of, I'm looking at the next one here, identifying qualified and intergovernmental funding opportunities. I think that's a good one.
Yes.
I like that one too, because I think in the past we have been helpful in pointing out SBA financing that's available. And I mean, that's something that I think we've done, and it has worked out pretty well. So I think that's one we could also adopt without deviating much from how we've handled that.
I guess I'm gonna disagree. I feel that every time I have gone in and talked to a business owner one-on-one, I get more feedback on what they're happy with the village is doing and what they're unhappy with the village is doing. And so I don't think there's anything more supportive than listening to what a business owner's struggles are or excitement is about being in the village. So I'm going to be a vote for, I think we should continue to reach out to businesses.
So I'll then divide it up. So what about having an annual business meeting that's part educational? And two is maybe we select certain businesses, 8, 10, 12 businesses, and we can reach out to them. We could do both, but let's not in mass say we want to hit 40 businesses, because we know we won't do that. And then two, I really think tied into this, we just had a whole discussion. Social media is going to be a great way to promote what we do on having a annual business meeting.
So Erwin's going to organize the breakfast in May where we explain what LinkedIn can do for them and how they can help. And Jen and I are going to start calling people on the phone saying, how are you feeling today?
Which year is this
that's
that we're doing this?
I would plant a seed and to build off of what's already been discussed. Think about a business and development, however we describe it, breakfast summit. I could bring in our planners to do a presentation for the developers so that the developers know what expectations are. I would bring in our building commissioner to talk about things like codes and processes to streamline the bureaucracy for these people who seem to be intimidated by the bureaucracy because either they don't understand it or don't understand Long Grove's different from a Buffalo Grove or a Hawthorne Woods in our approach on things. And then also give us a chance to talk about the importance of the EDC as a vehicle for business growth and retention within the community, and how the EDC and the government administration can work with and for those entities to make sure that we're all on the same page, achieving the same goals. And that's very broad and it could be brought down, but I think an annual or at least first time summit breakfast for businesses and developers is an opportunity for us to showcase the village and talk about the new administration, staff, the bureaucracy, our relationship with Mundaline, because that's brand new. That's only 6 months old, where they do our planning and community development.
So are we doing, I mean, it's COVID. Are we doing this Zoom? Are we talking about, are we really anticipating doing this in person?
I think that we could plan something very basic for a breakfast in person and be able to adapt within a window of 30 days based on COVID to go to Zoom. That's my opinion.
I think that's a good idea, Greg. I think being the business owners want more effective use of their time. And if we can assemble some of these topics that are very informative about what you're planning, and the summit, have the planner there, and how we're looking at streamlining codes and what the EDC does. It's an effective use of everybody's time. to go through these lists of things, that are informative and, create more of a linkage with the business community. I think it's a great idea.
The other thing that's good about those, in my experience over the 20 plus years I've been doing government, is the one thing that businesses and developers always want, and I'll draw back at some of my government affairs experience too, is they want access.
Right.
And when they could turn around and develop a relationship with not only their elected officials, but the bureaucracy that's going to do the day in, day out work and work with them, that's going to entice attendance as well. I know I certainly would, if I was representing a client from a government relations standpoint, I would turn around and make sure I had a seat at that table to at least network,
Right.
if nothing else.
Right, because we during COVID, I know that's what you were saying, Ruin. We reached out to 100 businesses, and it was helpful. I mean, we were there, we were offering to help, but I don't know that we were able to convey a lot of substantive information that was useful for them. I mean, it was a great opportunity to kind of take everybody's temperature and see how they were doing. But, if we could accomplish everything at the same time, do that, connect with the businesses and give them information they could use, I think that's great. I think that's perfect.
I just have concerns because we've done this,
Oh, yeah.
Zoom meetings and no one's shown up, like 3 people show up. So that's where I'm like, if I can get to some person and talk to them and have a conversation, then I know I'm getting something done. I can throw out 100 invitations and 3 people show up. How much energy and money have I thrown into this? So that's just me being devil's advocate because of our low attendance to our other attempts.
So why don't we do this? We have a number of questions we put together that we called up the businesses in the pandemic. Maybe we look at that, maybe we add and subtract, and if we want to test it out, and if each of us take 2 or 3 businesses and see what the comments are back. But it achieves the goal of what's set out here, to communicate with the businesses.
And there was, I mean, that being said, I didn't make those calls. I was new to the board, and so I didn't have a list of people to call. I've just been kind of doing it as I walk through the businesses. But there was an interest for breakfasts. That was one of the questions, right?
I had one, I think it was the Pizza Hut who was going to bring the pizzas for us, and they were way up in North Long Grove.
So, I mean, I'm willing to try it. I'm just, I think it would be great to bring businesses together. And I like the bringing in the plan commission, or not the plan commission, but the zoning. And I think we should try it. It's not, but I also don't want to take away the reaching out and having that one-on-one conversation.
So there's no reason we can't do both, or at least
Right.
parts of both.
We could try. We could try.
You're for sure not going to succeed if you don't try. So
that was one of the items on here that I had a comment that maybe we should put on our list as a 1, 2, or 3. And the other item that I think we've been successful in talking to Lake County partners and trying to figure out how we fit in there and how could be beneficial. I think we should keep that up. We've had some good calls with them.
what about the Chamber of Commerce that we are supposedly a part of? Is anybody going to those meetings? Should we be going to those meetings?
I think we should be.
Right.
Is that whose chamber is that? Is it Lake Zurich?
Yep.
There's Lake Zurich, Killdeer, Long Grove. We're on the emblem on their little thing. We're actually listed as a participant on their website, but nobody's going. So how active are we? So
Clearly not active at all.
Well, we pay dues every year.
all right, so we should be going, right?
I think yes, absolutely.
So do we need to ask the village board if we're okay to do that? Because we're not the village, we're only the E EDC.
Let me check on who the primary should be on the Chamber of Commerce and then the alternate. And then let me have the conversation with President Jacob as to, and perhaps it's a elected official or a staff member that's the primary with a member of the EDC as a second. But let me get some clarification from President Jacob on that.
Sounds good. I'm not sure which village board meeting it was, but maybe the one before last. It came out that, I think I got this right, the property where a developer wanted to put in a car wash had the owner of the property had given up on it and was giving the land to the village.
7107 Illinois 83 up by Osage and Willowbrook Road. Prior to my time, I guess there was a economic development initiative to put a car wash there that met with some disagreement. And
well, what happened was that the car wash came to the village and said, we think this would be a great spot for us to have this. And it was something unusual, a recycling car wash where they kept all their water and just used it within the site and back around again. But they came to the village board, and at that time, the village board came to EDC and said, well, would you look at it? But in the meantime, they sent it out to PZB, whatever is zoning, and they got a firestorm back from two neighbors to the west of there that it was awful and it was going to create all kinds of traffic through their street, and they were a quiet resident. It was a NIMBY in my mind, but it killed the project. And it killed the viability of the land as a resource for the village, even if it's only to general county taxes and high school taxes. So now the plan is to give the land to the village. And
that was the last discussion. I had a conversation with the property owner's realtor and attorney. The village board gave me direction to go ahead and pursue that. Subsequent to that, they have decided they're going to wait a little bit because they started getting some interest in the property. I got a call from a developer, but it was nothing of significance. We're asking, would it be possible for them to put a drive-through restaurant there? And drive-through restaurant means like a Culver's or a McDonald's or something along those lines. So we talked about zoning, and I have not heard anything since, but the property does. Realtor called and said that they were going to put a sign up there last week for sale. So I think they may take another pitch at it. It's one last shot. But that's where we're at with it right now.
So this goes to my problem, really, in that I feel like the village doesn't want to hear about anything in terms of economic development unless it's going to create sales tax revenue. And anything else in their mind is kind of irrelevant. And I think that's a mistake to take that kind of an attitude, because if we have land that could be used for anything and it's currently being used for nothing, or is farmland, or whatever, unless it somehow creates some non-economic benefit to the village, substantial, you're letting your assets, your land that could be developed, go to waste. Bill, in the communication, picked up the magic words, highest and best use, or best and highest use, which is in the legal zoning world what you're supposed to allow any land to be developed to. This is just my question. Should we be thinking about that? Should we be commenting or setting notes up to the board that says, don't forget about the fact that you should make use of your land? And that's my question.
Well, I wish I was in a better position to answer that question, because I haven't sat down yet with the body, because as you know, we haven't had that workshop yet. Certainly, I would say this. I would say that sales tax for commercial and for the commercial districts are important. Absolutely, because that's our revenue generator without a property tax.
Orton could be very, very nice.
And that, but I will say this, that the storage facility that we've been talking about today, that will be going before the board on Tuesday, that is not a sales tax driver at all. There is no sales tax except for ancillary sales of boxes and tapes and tape should somebody need that product or that commodity. But what the board recognized, or at least my conversations, I sent out a blanket email to the village board asking for their input and discussion on it. And the trustees and the village president got back and said, this piece of property could not be used for sale, for other things. It makes sense to put it there. So, so they are looking, or at least they have been looking at other opportunities where it isn't sales tax driven. So, but again, I can't say that, paint that with a broad brush either. So.
Yeah, the other piece of this is that it bleeds off into the attitude toward anything such as a multifamily dwelling,
Right.
condominium, where, that's just the road is closed. Don't even think about going over there. And maybe that is the case.
Well, that particular spot would be terrible because there's really, I mean, the thing that's appealing about a self-storage is it's limited traffic, and that's a really tricky intersection.
I was thinking more about South
and
15.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
No.
I think there's a little bit more of an interest on the South 15 for potentially, I'm curious to see what's going to come before the board. So I think I felt that in that meeting, I don't know if you heard the same thing, there is more of an open-mindedness about it. So, so that leads me into the next thing for us to be focusing on, and that is capitalizing on those TIF districts. Like that, it definitely seems to be an interest by the board for us to help cultivate businesses coming in. I think that LinkedIn potentially could be a venue for that, to say, hey, we have this available. But what is there anything else we could be doing as an EDC to, should we be doing research on what we think would be good there? And I don't know. I mean, this is not my area of expertise,
Right.
but I'm throwing it out there. Does anybody, that's definitely something that the board has an interest in, I think, is trying to get those TIFs used.
And Mina's got some very strong feelings about this and some expertise, a considerable amount of expertise. And Jay, in the same, has, the expertise of being a successful developer in this area. So how do we put that input in without seeming to be not knowing our place or being too pushy or whatever the case might be?
I think the question as a public administrator, I turned around and took a look at, since I've been here and I'm still trying to go through, is that only 2.5 years ago did the village update their comprehensive plan. That's fairly recent for an update on a comprehensive plan. And that comprehensive plan takes into account stakeholder involvement and communication that's been brought to the board. And the current comprehensive plan, some of the things that have been brought forward for mixed use development, more dense development, is something that just simply doesn't exist in the comp plan. So you've got this conflict between what the public has already said and the elected body has said just 2.5 years ago, or 3 years ago now, compared to what developers are bringing to the table. And let's add the little other element in there that between then and now was a pandemic.
Right.
So there's a shift in attitudes of retail, attitudes of living, a whole bunch of, but it doesn't mirror with what the comp plan says. And I think that, well, the comp plan is the reason it's created is it's the document that bottom line says, this is where we're going to go. This is our roadmap. This is our strategy.
In my mind, teeny little homes along Route 22. I mean, they're fair sized homes, but they're going for $650. And homes that are larger than that on 2.5 acres in country club estates are going for $575. And I'm going, the world has changed, it seems, in terms of what is sustainable in terms of developing the area.
And on the other side of things, you look at the numbers that we were one of the few communities in Lake County that saw growth in population, and we ended up exceeding the growth marks of percentage wise of not only the state but of the county. just simply on percentage. So something's attracting residents into this town. And I think Mina may have captured it on one of the first meetings, that we're starting to see younger people move into town, a different demographic move into town. But we are seeing people that are attracted to Long Grove for certainly a quality of life, the schools, the limited government model, the lack of a property tax. So there's something that's attracting them. If we had mass exodus and didn't see any growth, I think everybody would have to take a step back and say, what are we doing wrong? But then we question, okay, maybe this is working. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about the South 15 a lot. And this is one of the things, maybe just brainstorming like things that fit in the comprehensive plan that would work. But what do young families want? What do they need? They need activities for their kids. They want outlets for this, and to be able to somehow, I know we have great things. We have the art school and we have the dance school downtown. But like, how crazy it would be to try and recruit a children's museum. I mean, there's one that's really close to the city. There's nothing this far out in the west side. That might be a cool location to have a, something to draw in young families. Just a thought. I don't know. But
You certainly could do something with Reed Turner to make it a little more active and a little more young family friendly.
yeah,
Is that our property or is that Park District?
That's
That's what I thought.
yeah. And it's actually limited because it's a national forest. It's protected. So there is a lot of restrictions on what is allowed in there. You can't take dogs, and because it has a preservation quality higher than just like a forest preserve.
And we are having our workshop at the beginning of March, Roger. I don't know if you knew that or not. So
I hadn't heard, but that's fun.
Back to the TIF.
Yeah. Jennifer,
Back to the TIF for a minute. I think Mina did write up something about the TIFs, didn't she? That we were thinking about sending through social media. I think Mina had already written something up. I don't know if that ever.
I think she did. I don't think it went anywhere beyond our inboxes though. So
Yeah, that's
maybe
what I.
good time to revisit that.
I thought the board was going to review that.
Well, I
it
think
was.
we were supposed to.
Yeah, right. Okay, it was on the to-do list.
yeah, we should be marketing that TIF.
Yeah.
We had 2 TIF districts. They're great districts. I mean, it's the South 15 is, I mean, not South 15, the Southgate district is prime. I mean, that's so there's opportunities there for sure. The other thing is we need to know what we're going to do with the TIF. What I mean, as far as what kind of incentive programs are potentially out there for the TIF district? What's going to turn around and attract people to come into the TIF district? I mean, those are things we've got to formulate. Doesn't do any good to say you got a TIF district if you don't know what you're going to do with it.
Right.
So,
And what can we do with it? I mean,
Right.
we are
Yeah.
a village of limited resources. So
well, that's the other part of it is that the village doesn't want to say what they're going to do because they don't want to make promises until they draw in a real occupant. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that was a holdup with getting out that, what Mina had written up about the TIFs. But we could revisit that and see if that might be something we could develop.
I think that's
So
good.
The trustees are having a meeting to discuss this generalized, what's going on with the EDC business in the next couple of weeks. Is that what I heard?
We finally got the workshop.
what is the date?
I got to look. It's the date that you can be here. That's
Oh,
what
the 12th?
Yeah,
Yay.
that's right. The 12th. So this is one of the agenda items, Roger.
Got it. And then it's going to be closed, or can we hang out in the background and just listen?
I think it has to be open because
We're going to do it under double secret, top secret,
I
maximum.
knew it.
Get smart, code of silence.
Executive
No,
session.
it's an open, but it's a workshop, so it's going to be an open session. It'll be about 6 hours. But yeah, it'll be an open session.
Okay. I mean, I just would like the chance maybe to listen a little bit because
So, maybe Roger, the agenda items for the next meeting, we could, again, kind of solidify some of these areas for EDC to focus on, that were covered in this chart, and try to formulate them and get the board's feedback, a little more feedback on that. Another thing that I think we could talk about is what you circulated on Lake County Partners looking at strategies
yeah.
for economic development for Lake County going forward, and they're trying to get public comment on that. So that's another thing we could think about. Should we be, commenting on that? Is what does Long Grove need in terms of facilitating its economic development according to this seeds plan?
Yeah, that was a really meaty presentation. There's so much information there.
There's a lot there, and
There it is.
I mean, I think that now, when is the public comment again, Roger? It's the end of February.
I don't recall, but it's fairly soon.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's unfortunate, because I mean, we could take a whole, probably take an hour to talk about that, what Long Grove should say. What should we do a collective comment, on what we need, to support our businesses. I think from a standpoint of the comprehensive plan, I think we need more help with infrastructure.
Yeah, I think pathways would be crucial. I think so many people want this village connected via pathway.
Right.
And I think,
Well, and one of the things on that, Jenny, is that I was in a meeting with Lake County Department of Transportation. We're talking about not only the Arlington Heights Road project, but the additional pathways down on Aptekissick that they're going to expand for bike and pedestrian pathways on both the north and south side of the street going to 83. When that project is complete, we will have connectivity from downtown Long Grove to the Des Plaines River Bike Trail,
that's
all
All
the way to Milwaukee. There is a small piece that sits just
Wow.
to the east of the Walgreens at Buffalo Grove Road and Aptekissick, where there's some ComEd towers that is going to have to be filled, but it's a very small piece. But yeah, there'll be connectivity all the way from the Des Plaines River Bike Trail to downtown Long Grove.
we need
I have to sign
north-south.
off.
We need
Yep.
north-south. We need to get people from up north downtown. We need just to, yeah. So,
Those bikes, yeah.
I have to sign off. We'll see everyone at the next meeting.
bye, Erwin.
Take care, Erwin.
Thank you.
Yeah, get healthy.
Yeah, I mean, just a few more comments about this Lake County Partners. I think we should consider what we need, what Long Grove needs to support its business community in light of, the areas that they point out for future development, like financial services, tech, medical supplies, that type of thing. And I think what we could think about is a couple of our bigger, our newer, bigger businesses. What do they need to stay here and survive? Maybe look at something like Matt Holdings and Weiss Properties. What do they need?
They need people. They need staff.
They need water. They need, water connections, sewer. They need flood control. Some of the things, I mean, if we're looking at hard infrastructure, I think those are areas for Long Grove. I don't know, we would need planning people to help us develop that. But I think, looking at what they're talking about here, we do need some hard infrastructure.
Well, what I would recommend on that, Pam, is because if the EDC as a body offers information regarding the comprehensive economic development strategy for Lake County Partners, that company who is doing the SEDS is going to run with it as a policy statement by the village. So my recommendation would be to turn around and make those suggestions in some kind of format and communicate it to the village board, so that if it does go out, or either part of it or all of it, it's got the endorsement and in support from the policymaking body. And that's not to say that the EDC is not looking at, the things in being conscientious of what they're looking for or taking into all facts. I think it's, in fact, I think it's good. I think the EDC makes a recommendation and says, we think that infrastructure is vital to our economic growth based on conversations we've had with the businesses. But yeah, anything that would go to that planner or the Lake County partners is going to be taken as policy if it's coming from any entity in the village. So it should come from the body instead of just the
Right.
commission.
Right, we shouldn't, no, I agree with that, Greg.
All right, we're over time and not all stuff we could talk about, I'm sure, but for this morning, I think we've done enough to say we're finished. Anybody, any new business types things?
It was a good meeting.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't think we give ourselves enough credit. I think we are making progress. So thank you, everybody, for contributing. I just think we need to relay our message and align it with the board. I think that's our biggest hurdle right now. But I mean, this LinkedIn thing, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Greg. This is great. This is a great stepping stone.
Right, absolutely.
And the art. So, I mean, that's progress. So we're
Also, for Roger and Jenny, just so you know that Natalie's been assigned as your permanent staff liaison.
great.
So,
Well, she's fantastic. So thank you for bringing her on board. It's
Oh,
nice
yeah.
to have that next generation.
Right, excellent, excellent.
she's already trying out my office chair. I don't know what that means.
Well, she's
You bring
got
the coffee.
fire-
Well,
yeah.
it means you're bringing in the right people.
Motion to adjourn. Anybody?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Oh, wait, don't we have to
We
approve?
don't
the
have a
minutes?
quorum.
You don't have a quorum right now.
Oh,
You'd have to carry them over.
Yeah, and we don't have minutes. They didn't get quite circulated yet, I don't think.
They did.
Oh, yeah, I sent out
That's
a minute.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we'll get to that next time. Promise, guarantee. Any opposed to the motion to adjourn? All right, we can turn off the recording and
I do have a
our
quick
next whatever they are
question
is
that's non-EDC related, so I'll wait till you stop recording, Roger.